Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Craig Mish back to start another week off with you here as we get closer to opening day in Major League Baseball, the Sweet 16 in the NCAA Tournament. We got a fun week ahead for you here on SportsGrid. It's also Executives Week in baseball for us here on the show. Alex Anthopoulos, President of Baseball Operations, will be with us coming up in about 35 minutes from now. Miami Marlins President Peter Bendix on the show tomorrow, and on Wednesday, Orioles Vice President of Baseball Operations and GM Mike Elias will be with us, and we'll have special guests throughout the week getting you ready for opening day as well. So stay tuned for that as we begin the show here today. We do start off with a big baseball story to begin on the program, and this will be the biggest story in sports today. Depending on what comes out of it, we're not particularly sure, but Shohei Ohtani, amidst this potential scandal that's going on right now with the Los Angeles Dodgers after they fired their interpreter last week, is going to address the media today and talk about exactly, or maybe not, what happened. You know, whose money was this $4.5 million? Was it the interpreter? Was it Ohtani? We really don't know until Ohtani does speak. He says he's going to today. Maybe he'll shed some light on this entire situation for us, which would make it our top story for tomorrow, too, if indeed something does come out of it. Also a big story coming out of New York today, that mobile sports betting, their handle has surpassed a very big number this morning, $40 billion, folks. Incredible. The week ending March 17th collected $445 million, sending New York over $40 billion, joining New York and New Jersey as the only states to do so. It took 115 weeks for New York to get there. Next up will be Nevada, only $1.5 billion behind the 40. So there you go there. Really good news for New York as well. All right, let's get to the NCAA tournament and show you the bracket for what the Sweet 16 looks like. A lot of upsets in the first round. Not so much since then, though. How about this? So all the number one seeds are in. All the number two seeds are in. We have UConn taking on San Diego State, Houston and Duke, Illinois and Iowa, North Carolina State and Marquette, North Carolina and Alabama, Purdue, Gonzaga, Clemson, Arizona, Creighton, and Tennessee. So those games are all set, all number ones and all number twos. I had a really good start to my bracket in the NCAA tournament. I picked a bunch of upsets, Oakland over Kentucky, Vermont. But then I still picked those upsets all the way through the end. So I don't know that I'm going to win the SportsGrid contest. But needless to say, I'm still in it. And that's all you can ask for. As I said, since the field expanded since 1985, this is just the fifth time, by the way, that all 8 number one and number two seeds have made it to the Sweet 16. The Sweet 16, by the way, will be played this Thursday and Friday. We'll have Bracket Central covered for you on Thursday. So make sure you stick around and stay with us Thursday afternoon. By the way, crazy game last night in case you missed this. I thought the game was over. Houston was just crushing Texas A&M. Texas A&M comes all the way back, 100-95. Houston led, by the way, for those of you who took Houston, they led by 12 with under 2 minutes to play. Texas A&M rallied all the way through, and 4 players fouled out. It was an insane game, maybe the game of the tournament, I think it's fair to say. So your brackets are okay, but if you took Houston minus the points, you ended up losing. It looked like that was an easy win, by the way, early. West Virginia has signed Drake's Darian DeVries as their men's basketball coach, so congrats to him. And FAU with a ton of success on the basketball court. Maybe some of it attributed to Dusty May. He's done a great job for the Owls. He has agreed to become Michigan's next head basketball coach. $3.75 is the report, $1 million annually for Dusty May. Incredible run last year, by the way, for FAU getting to the Final Four. This was 1 year ago, about right now. By the way, while this investigation is going on with Shohei Ohtani, he's remaining on the active roster. So it seems to be some good news for those of you, let's just say in fantasy baseball, you took Shohei Ohtani or you're hoping he plays this year. Ohtani is going to, at least for the time being, stay on the active roster. Rockies giving out a 7-year contract extension. It's to infielder Ezequiel Tovar, $63.5 million, $84 million if the final option in that contract is exercised. Of course, the Yankees are going to start the season off without Garrett Cole in their rotation. Luis Gil has been named their 5th starter, and Nestor Cortez is going to start opening day for the New York Yankees. So naturally, the Yankees are up against it a little bit to start the season. We'll see if they get Garrett Cole coming back. Also, Brandon Woodruff, it was announced, is not going to pitch this year. He did re-sign with the Brewers on a 2-year contract. So Woodruff, hypothetically, could pitch for the Brewers in 2025. All right, big news here at the start of our day here in the NFL. Of course, they have their meetings going on right now with the general managers, so I'm sure some news is going to come out of this week. One of the things that the committee has decided to do is ban the hip drop tackle. That's official. NFL Network just reported it this morning. It's resulted in an injury rate that's 25 times higher on that specific tackle than other tackles. So it's a 15-yard penalty now and an automatic first down for using the hip drop tackle. That's going to be gone in the NFL, or they want to ban it. And naturally, players will probably still do it, and then they'll, have a penalty associated with it. Okay, let's get to the latest with the New England Patriots. Boy, they have the 3rd pick overall in the draft. You would think they'll take a quarterback, but Gerard Mayo, their head coach, says they're still open to trade offers. Probably some smoke here. We'll see if there's fire. Russell Westbrook going to be back for the Clippers this week. Really good news there. Maybe could return tonight against Indiana. We'll see. Westbrook, a very big part of what the Clippers are doing as we're getting toward the end of the regular season and the play-in games are coming up in the NBA. Jabari Smith, Chris Dunn, suspended for an altercation. Rockets right now are fighting to get in that play-in game. They've had a really strong month of March here. The Rockets have put themselves back in the playoff picture. And if in case you missed it this week, and I know the golf tournament, it wasn't quite as big as the Players' Championship. We have the Masters right around the corner, I believe, in 3 weeks. Peter Malnati ends up winning on the PGA Tour. By the way, this is crazy. His first win on the PGA Tour at the Valspar Championship this weekend in 9 years. 9 years. That's a long time in between PGA Tour victories. So congratulations to him. Now, naturally, for those who watched all this weekend, some great coverage here from all of the ladies and gentlemen who were part of that for the NCAA tournament. Bracket Central was a ton of fun, and we got a lot more coverage coming for you. So in case you want to take an updated look at some of the odds and what the brackets look like, there's been a couple of different changes in terms of totals and line movement with some of these games. So what you want to do is download the SportsGrid app. I'll show you in a second, but there is the Sweet 16. So for those of you who've been following along, and look, let's be honest, there are some people who, after they get knocked out of their bracket, they don't care anymore. You guys should still care. It's still a lot of fun. You can still go against the spread in some of these games. And who knows, maybe the 1 seed or the 2 seed will get knocked out. There's the graphic. Just put your phone up against that right there. It is QR code all set for iOS and Android, the SportsGrid app. Download it now. All of our content, interviews, and everything else that we have going on here on SportsGrid, you can download it. And by the way, it's absolutely free. All right, set you up for the rest of the show. Coming up next here on the program, we have Jacob Camenker. We're going to talk about the market movement on some of the games in the NCAA tournament. Matthew Waters is with us from Legal Sports Reports, where we have the very latest in legalized sports betting here in the country. We'll also touch, of course, on Shohei Ohtani. And then naturally, a very special guest for us here, back for, I believe, a 3rd year in a row, President of Baseball Operations, Alex Anthopoulos, is going to give us a preview of what the Braves will look like with a little slightly revamped roster. Chris Sale is now on the team. Adam Duvall is back for another season with them. We'll talk about the Braves and how they get over that regular season hump. They've had no problem winning 100 games during the regular season. It's going to be all about the postseason for the Braves this year, so we'll talk to Alex about that as well. As I mentioned, Marlins President Peter Bendix on the show tomorrow, and Wednesday, Baltimore Orioles Vice President and GM Mike Elias will be with us. So we are stacked all the way up through opening day. I don't think there's another show in the country doing this for you. Stick with us here on NewsWire, on SportsGrid throughout the week. Baseball previews, basketball previews, and we'll continue looking at the NCAA tournament next. Don't go away.
Where he is. He's not in the low block.
Hey,
he's on the wing.
Yeah, but he's back.
He pounds in. He's throwing elbows, too.
That's a man move.
That's a grown man move, but he's throwing elbows. The steal. The foul. No call. No call.
But look
and
who
Silver Fox missed another one. The humanity.
In the corner, Caleb Love. The arms are up. Come on, I haven't had a touch in a minute.
25.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Betting in-game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like, I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot. And I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like, technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Jacob Camenker joins us to preview all the games in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA Tournament. Jacob, look, I would say that the NCAA Tournament is absolutely delivering on so many close games, including last night's game. Just incredible between Houston, Texas A&M. I mean, the games, what's interesting, Jacob, I would say about this tournament in particular, maybe you could, tell me if you agree. Teams have had big leads squandered in this tournament. Teams have come all the way back. To me, that's sort of the story here. Upsets the first day, upsets the second day, and very chalky this weekend. Does that summarize it for you?
I think that's about right. That's exactly how this tournament has gone. There have been a lot of close games. There have also been a lot of blowouts with the high-end teams. The number one seeds outside of Houston last night against Texas A&M have not faced too many difficult tests so far, but that Houston-Texas A&M game was amazing because Houston had a 13-point lead late, I think 10-point lead with about 2 minutes left, and Texas A&M played the foul game, just gradually whittled it down, got it to overtime, but Houston, despite having 4 players foul out, still managed to make it through. So it's been an exciting tournament. There's been plenty of good games. The Creighton-Oregon double overtime game was particularly crazy too, so it's been a lot of fun, and even despite some blowouts, I think fans are getting exactly what they want every March, this type of game.
Yeah. No, I thought it's been a lot of fun. I would have liked to see more upsets, honestly. I would have liked to see, a couple of the number ones go down in 2. I still think there's a chance of that happening. Let's not get it twisted here. But there's a ton of great matchups here remaining. The start of the tournament had UConn as the favorite, and they're still the favorite, as you can see the Sweet 16 matchups. What do you think right now people are thinking, taking UConn to win the championship? And is there another team out there, Jacob, that you took potentially to win that you're feeling good about your chances? Because we've seen some shift here in the odds.
Yeah, I think UConn, you have to feel great about what they've done. They easily handled Stetson, the 16 seed. 9 seed Northwestern was no problem for them. They just have great size and great shooting. Donovan Clingan, the center, is really fantastic just around the rim. He just keeps getting better every game. And every time they took a shot against Northwestern, you felt like it was going in. And they're just going to be able to kind of do that as the tournament goes on. San Diego State's a tough defensive team, but the one thing that the Aztecs have that UConn's going to be able to outplay them is Aztecs aren't very good at shooting threes. I think they rank 284th in the country in 3-point percentage. So if UConn has a good shooting game, they should be able to get through them. Then it's a test with Illinois or Iowa State. I think Illinois is the bigger threat because Illinois can score with UConn. And Terrence Shannon's had a great season, but UConn's path looked difficult to this Final Four berth at first, but it's looking easier and easier with the more that we're seeing of how UConn is playing and coming together. And just the experience they have and the hunger they have to win a second title back to back.
Yeah, they've looked great so far. Dominant, as you said, in the first two games that they played. Not particularly competitive as well. The odds makers have spoken for these games coming up, Jacob, and what they're telling us is expect a lot of close games. I don't see any double digits, which is sort of rare to get to this time of the year. Most spreads within 5, 6, 4, 3. It should be fun. Let's start off and preview a couple of them. We've got Alabama taking on North Carolina. Alabama's offense didn't completely get it going, I thought, in this tournament yet. I'm still sort of waiting for that, where they're usually up and down. You can see why the total is so high, because that's the kind of game that they play. They did not over the weekend. North Carolina's 3.5-point favorites. I think Alabama can absolutely win and beat North Carolina, but their tempo has got to be what it was during the SEC's regular season and in the conference tournament. They got to be better on offense.
Right. Alabama has to play fast, but they have to be in control too. We saw it too often against Grand Canyon where they were going up and down the floor, out of control, multiple guys hitting the floor on every play. That's great. That's great to have that hustle, but you need to be able to finish plays and not get to the rim and just shoot out of control shots. But I agree with you. I think Alabama has a chance to pull off this upset. This game feels like it's going to be a close one. The experience of R.J. Davis and Armando Bacot is going to really help North Carolina, and just their ability to work the inside-outside game, I think, is going to give North Carolina a chance to win this one. But I almost would rather bet the over in this game, because I think if Alabama's offense plays high speed and converts on more of their chances at the rim and from beyond the arc, I think that they're going to score a lot, and I think UNC is going to match them in a close game. So this is another game that could go to overtime. I think I might slightly favor UNC just because of the size and experience, but that's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so the odds makers seem to think that because of the way that Arizona played this weekend, that Clemson is up against it. The Wildcats are 6.5-point favorites taking on the Tigers. The total is 151.5, and this is a lot of points to give to another team in the round of 16 of the NCAA tournament, but Arizona's playing exceptionally well, Jacob. So I don't know. Like I think this. I like the way that Clemson's playing too. Let's make no mistake about it. They definitely deserve to be at this point, but kind of feels like I don't know which one to take. It's like a stay away game for me.
Yeah, this might end up being a stay away game. I tend to agree with you. I think Arizona's the better team. Clemson, we've seen them play well, but we also saw them slip away at the end of the game to Baylor and almost blow that one. Arizona has, I think, the better talent. And Caleb Love is just such a dynamic scorer and playmaker. When he's on fire, Arizona is going to be very, very hard to stop. Now, the problem is Caleb Love sometimes has poor shot selection or just goes cold for an extended stretch. And we even saw that in their game in the second round, where they kind of slipped away from leading big in that game and let the other team back into it. But I think Caleb Love, if he has a good game, Arizona should cover this spread. But I'm not sure I want to bet on that, just because I think Arizona could still win if Caleb Love doesn't go off. But it's going to be a lot harder to cover a spread of that size if he's a little bit cold, even for half the game.
Yeah, tough one to call. Arizona, by the way, is the favorite to win the West at plus 110. North Carolina's plus 170, Bama plus 440, and then you have Clemson 9.5 to 1. All right, now let's move over to the East region, where I gotta say, I don't know. What am I missing here? Do the odds makers have this game wrong, Jacob? Why is Illinois a dog? I don't want to get in the way of this team right now. They're playing like as good as any team in the NCAA tournament, getting 2.5 points against Iowa State. Total of 145.5 takes nothing away from me from the Cyclones. They've been great too, but I mean, I gotta take Illinois here, right? Like, I mean, they're playing so well at the moment. What am I missing?
I don't know if you're missing anything. This could be a trap line. The only thing I can consider is maybe the odds makers think that Terrence Shannon and Illinois' offense is going to have a bad matchup with Iowa State's defense. But I tend to think with the way Illinois is scoring, I think they average the sixth most points per game in the country. I think that they're going to have the advantage in this one. I think that Iowa State's just going to have trouble matching the offensive output that the Illini will put up. So I'm willing to back them here as underdogs. And you're right. The line feels wrong. It feels like it could be a big-time trap. Maybe Iowa State comes out and locks them down. But I'm willing to ride with Illinois based off what I've seen. I think they're the biggest threat to UConn, too. So if you're expecting that UConn might have some trouble and you have a bet on UConn, I wouldn't mind hedging with saying a bet on Illinois to win that region.
Yeah, they've looked great. I mean, great in the conference tournament, great in the NCAA tournament. I think you want to ride that. UConn is 10-point favorites, by the way, in their matchup, or 9.5 against San Diego State. Total of 135.5. Another team that I don't want to get in the way of, Jacob, because I think that this is a good matchup for them again. I think the danger zone probably comes in the 8 or the 4 or the championship, but I think they'll get through this next round. How about you?
I agree. I think San Diego State, I mentioned it earlier, they have trouble making three-pointers, ranking 284th in the country in three-point percentage. So I think if UConn shoots well from beyond the arc, it's just going to be hard for San Diego State to keep pace, and they're just going to have to really slow down that offense. I don't see it happening. I think UConn can cover. This isn't one of my favorite picks of the week, but I don't think they're going to have a tough time winning that game.
All right, Jacob. Well, enjoy the games this week. Thanks again for coming on. Next week, we'll preview the Final Four. Thanks for appearing on the show.
Yep, no problem. Thanks, Craig.
All right, Jacob Camenker of Sporting News joining us. Matthew Waters is up next with Legal Sports Report, the very latest on an update with sports betting in Florida.
Look where he is. He's not in the low block.
Hey,
he's on the wing.
Yeah, but he's back.
He pounds in. He's throwing elbows, too.
That's a man move.
That's a grown man move, but he's throwing elbows. The steal. The foul. No call. No call. The Silver Fox missed another one. The humanity.
In the corner, Caleb Love, the arms are up. Come on, I haven't had a touch in a minute.
25.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the numbers so often. Like I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only like travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Matthew Waters joins us here on a Monday on NewsWire from Legal Sports Report. Not usually here with us on Monday, but great to have you here, Matt. We're going to dive into a number of sports betting stories legal from the weekend, and you can read these, I should say, at LegalSportsReport.com. Matt, thanks for coming on the show. We're going to start off here. Hey, where I live in the state of Florida, I know that there's going to just still be these companies, and West Flagler is the one in particular that is not happy with the way things have gone. Essentially, the Seminoles have the monopoly on sports betting in Florida. There's no FanDuel, there's no DraftKings, there's no MGM. It's all going in their direction. And I guess this ruling doesn't guarantee that nothing is going to change in the future, but it certainly seems like sports betting is not only here to stay in Florida, but it's here to stay through the Seminole tribe.
Yeah, look, Craig, I think what we're seeing here is that the efforts to get this stopped at the state level are just kind of falling flat on their face, particularly this one when they applied for a pro warranto. And basically what they were going for was to get it shut down, but it wasn't the right kind of filing, basically, is what the court wound up saying, that they were looking to, with pro warranto, that's more about challenging the state's authority to do an action instead of, whether that action was correct or not. Obviously, the state has the right to enter into gambling compacts with the Seminole Indians, so that really wasn't the right way to go, the court said. It was trying to overreach with what they were asking for. And I think at this point that there could still be an effort to challenge at the state level, but I don't think anything is happening with this, Craig, unless the Supreme Court decides to hear it. And, that's a gamble still at this point. They only hear like a couple percentage of the things that are petitioned to them every year. It's like 70 to 80 total hearings that they have. So not a great shot for it to even be heard at the state level, or at the Supreme Court level, excuse me. But, Florida is a huge state for this, Craig. It's estimated that Hard Rock has about 5% market share by handle in the U.S. Well, they're in other states, sure. They're not doing a whole lot in other states, though. So the biggest base of their business is Florida. And remember, we had over $100 billion bet on the legal market last year in the U.S. So Florida is something worth fighting over for these guys. But I don't see it changing at this point. The compact is good. The intention is good. And we're seeing that laws from tribal gaming are starting to align with this concept of the bet can happen at the casino server, even if it's off of the tribal land. So I think I don't see Florida sports betting shutting down again, if I'm being honest, Craig, again, unless we get to the Supreme Court stage and something happens there. So we just have to wait for that. And if that did happen, Craig, that probably wouldn't be heard until next year. So we are still on ice, basically, for another year and a half, potentially at least, just to see where this is going. But all signs point to Florida being up and running and going to stay that way, with Hard Rock just enjoying that monopoly.
Yeah, it is continuing, and the rage continues against them from people who don't want that monopoly. So I don't think we've heard the last of this story, but for the time being, the beat goes on with Hard Rock Bet. Okay, United States Congressman is in action here with something I'm finding interesting, because, again, we saw last year, Matthew, with sports betting in Canada, some very big restrictions on advertising, on player involvement as far as sports wagering is concerned. And so a potential new piece of legislation is being introduced called the Safe Bet Act. Tell us more about what this is and how it could impact sports wagering in the future.
Yeah, really interesting bill here from Congressman Tonko. If you remember, he also had a bill last year, the Betting on Our Future Act, that addressed advertising. And he basically likened the sports betting commercials to the cigarette commercials of old, and saying that, we have another Joe Camel. It's just a different look at this phase. And, he may not be wrong about everything he's saying about advertising, but he really wants to make a splash at the federal level to have a lot of these things regulated. He's looking specifically at advertising, deposits and affordability, and artificial intelligence. On the advertising side, he wants to see no more bonus, no sweat. He doesn't want odds boosts to be used to entice people to bet. And the industry has come pretty far on that already, Craig. If you remember from last year, Ohio, when they launched on January 1st, they were fining operators left and right because they had in their regulations that you can't say the word free if it requires you to put out any money on your own. So the popular thing at that time was, bet $5, get $200 in free bets. Well, you have to bet $5 of your own dollars, so it's not free. So We've seen that fall out of the lexicon. But now he's trying to go above and beyond that. He also would like to see ads only around sporting events, but not during sporting events. So the ad part of it, he's really reaching for, and I think that we would see the industry push back strongly against that. The daily deposits limit that he wants to allow people to only deposit up to 5 times a day in a 24-hour period. Now, personally, to me, that sounds pretty good. If you are going back to deposit that many times, then I think that shows maybe an insecurity about where the funds are coming from. So I have no problem with that personally. He's also looking for affordability checks before customers can place larger wagers. Now, the bill isn't out yet, so that actually hasn't been defined on what a larger wager is. Gaming companies are very familiar with anti-money laundering rules, though, and they have to make a report and record the transaction of anything that's $10,000 or more anyway. So it depends on where he's trying to go with the large wagers. If the industry is going to push back on this, if his idea of a large wager is $1,000, then that's probably going to be a problem for the industry. But if he says, 7, 8, well, maybe they may not have as much room to argue there. The last part of this, though, is perhaps the most interesting thing for the industry as a whole, because he wants to kind of take AI out of sports betting. The first part of that is he doesn't want AI to be able to read what I'm betting, see what I like, and then generate personal offers based off of that. This is something that companies already do, whether it's technically using AI or it's just using a program to follow things. This is happening all over the place. The other part of that, though, is he wants to limit AI in gambling products like live betting micro bets. That would be huge because live betting is what a lot of these operators got in the market for. Remember, over in Europe, we're talking about probably 70% of the handle coming from in-game betting. And the idea of using AI is not only are your pricing models going to be a little better, but you're going to have more uptime on those bets too. It's not going to take a human pricing something and taking less time away for that bet to be up. Right. So this would be pretty big for the industry if that did happen. Look, we know it is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and we know that operators and companies are getting more serious about making sure the product is not harmful for people. But, some of the ads out there, we still see a whole lot of ads, Craig. And whether you're saying, bonus bets or no sweat, you could argue those either way, honestly. I think at this point, though, the sports betting industry really needs to understand that they kind of got to get their act together and get on one page. The last thing these operators want is any kind of federal regulation. Because trust me, I have watched plenty of these legislative meetings and these lobbyists go in there and they butter them up and they get a lot of what they want with these states. So federal regulation is not what they're looking for. But Congressman Tonka was very serious last year about getting this done. I asked him if it was a scare tactic just to get the industry to regulate himself. He said, no way. And so he's very serious about this as well. So we'll see where it goes when the bill actually comes out.
All right, let's close it out. We got 2 minutes, Matt, to touch on this news story. Rush Street Interactive, who, when sports betting was legalized a couple of years ago, really was one of the first ones on the scene wanting to be a big player. Bet Rivers is one of the companies that they're associated with and very big into iGaming. And I mean, it does look like they're looking for a buyout here or a payoff here, trying to get in with DraftKings here, which does make some sense. And we're seeing this a lot with some of these smaller companies that can't fight with the big boys. They're looking for partnerships. It seems like that's what's happening here.
Yeah, you know what, Craig? This is interesting to me, and we're already hearing some reports that maybe this isn't true, or maybe they're pitching it out to everyone. RSI selling Bet Rivers essentially would be really interesting. They have a bunch of Latin American companies that are countries that are ramping up that they're going to be profitable in. They're profitable now, even with their smaller stake. It makes sense for DraftKings or another company to want them because, as you said, they were one of the first movers. And having these players that focus on iGaming, there was so much more to these companies, Craig. So you're looking at a database of profitable customers, but I don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, Matt, I know you'll have some big stories to cover. We'll see if anything comes out of this Ohtani press conference today, too, as well. I'll be waiting for that one. All right, Matthew, appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, sir. You too.
All right. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
He's not in the low block.
Hey,
he's on the wing.
Yeah, but he's backing
He pounds
down.
in. He's throwing elbows,
that's
too.
That's a man move.
That's a real man move, but he's throwing elbows. The steal. The foul. No call. No call.
Look
The
who
Silver
won.
Fox missed another one. The humanity.
In the corner, Caleb Love, the arms are up. Come on, I haven't had a touch in a minute.
25.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Talk about dominating the National League East. The Atlanta Braves seem to do that every year, and now we're going to get into it and see what can be better for the Braves here in 2024. Alex Anthopoulos, always kind enough to give us a few minutes to preview the season here on NewsWire as he joins us now. And Alex, once again, great to have you on. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to preview your upcoming season. Opening day is almost here, Alex. We're finally here. Spring training's coming to an end. I know you guys have another game, though, today.
Yeah, we have two more, today and tomorrow. So, but I'm anxious to get going. You get to the end. It's a long spring, but for the most part, everything's gone well.
Yeah, and I would say that for you guys in particular, the lineup that you have put in front of everyone this season is formidable once again. The quick additions, I guess, that you made to the team offensively was the move to get Jared Kelenic, and then late in the spring, getting Adam Duvall. But top to bottom, this is the strength of the Braves, I would say, going into the season. Would you agree, based off what you saw last year, this year in the spring?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it was a historic offense in terms of home run totals and runs scored and slugging percentages and things like that. So largely the group comes back. Now, some guys had obviously incredible seasons, MVP seasons and so on, and all-star seasons. We had 8 all-stars last year, 6 on the position player side. So, to expect everybody to repeat that, that's probably not fair. But the talent is certainly there to have a strong offensive club again.
Yeah, and I would say there was a couple of surprises for me last year from you guys. The first was the first half of the season that Michael Harris had versus the second half. It was fantastic. And then the other thing that really surprised me, Alex, was to see Marcell Ozuna get back to what he was here in South Florida several years ago. I was just stunned to see the kind of year that he had last year, to go ahead with, of course, the MVP in Acuna and Albies and everything else that you guys have there. So if you wouldn't mind, what went right for Harris more in the second half of the season, and how do you explain this sort of re-breakout for Marcell Ozuna?
Yeah, look, Harris had not struggled like that in his career. The young prospect did not have a lot of time in the minor leagues. We called him up. We had a need, and obviously had a tremendous first year in 2022. But it actually worked out for him. The fact that he could struggle like that and dig his way out of it and have a tremendous second half, like you said, and still put up a great year bodes well. So he made adjustments, and, actually he credits Marcell Ozuna for a lot of his turnaround, just talking to him from the mental side and so on. You get down on yourself when you're struggling, and things have come easy. In terms of Ozuna, look, when we signed him originally in 2020, it was a shortened season, but he was arguably right there, could have won the MVP. Freddie Freeman won it, but Ozuna's stats were pretty close with average and homers and RBIs and so on, but he was that good in that short a period. And then obviously, the next 2 years did not play well, but had a very strong finish to the season in September in 2022, carried that over to a very strong spring training, and, somehow had an awful month of April. But I give our manager a ton of credit. He kept playing him. He believed in him, and he thought he would come out of it, and he rewarded us. And you look at the year that Marcell Ozuna had, the homers, all of it. He basically did that in five months, because April was as bad a month as I've seen a player have. And again, I give our manager a ton of credit. It would have been easy to put him on the bench, but he continued to run him out there because he had belief in him. And Marcell certainly rewarded us. But he's worked hard. He's always been a very talented hitter. And it's nice to see him finally get back to the player that he can be.
Yeah, it was unbelievable the year that Stanton won the MVP in Miami. Got himself, a deal, of course, with in the trade with the Cardinals, and then with you guys as well. So the pitching is going to look a little bit different for the Braves this season. Of course, Max Fried is back, and so is Spencer Strider. Charlie Morton, you got him back for another season. But wow, Chris Sale is on the Atlanta Braves for people who haven't paid attention to it. He has looked awesome this spring. Reynaldo Lopez, potential 5th starter for you guys as well. But I think everyone is quite familiar with most of the names on the Braves. Maybe they did not see Chris Sale pitch in the spring, Alex, and you did. What did you see? And with that trade, with him coming in, can he get back to what he was several years ago, which is the ace of any rotation that he pitches on?
I think he's capable of certainly being there. I think that's tough to put on anybody, right? Just having that kind of year. But he looks phenomenal. 3-pitch mix, strikes. I think the biggest thing, part of the appeal of acquiring, was this was the first regular, normal offseason he would have. He wasn't rehabbing anything. He could get thrown earlier. And that's really been important for him. And I know from experience with Charlie Morton, that's been a key to his seasons, is having a normal offseason, not having an injury to rehab and so on. And look, we know when Chris Sale's on the mound, he's a top flight starter. So we wanted to go out and get someone we felt good about starting a playoff game. We absolutely feel that with Chris. He's continued to show us fantastic stuff in the spring. And like all these guys, health is going to be the most important thing. But when he's out there, we expect him to be a mid to front of the rotation guy.
Yeah, he's obviously been that in the past. Let me get a quick update here on Ronald Acuna Jr., who I know has been back in the lineup and playing for you guys. He did have that blip during the spring where he missed some time. There was some nervousness, at least outside of the Braves. Maybe there was with you guys in the organization as to what would come out of that knee issue. Do you feel he's 100% healthy going into the season? And he's coming off one of the best seasons we've ever seen in baseball. So I would like an update, if you wouldn't mind, where his health is and heading into opening day on Thursday.
Yeah, when the injury occurred, we weren't concerned just because he was examined by doctors here in Florida and the medical staff here, and they weren't concerned. But look, he's a player of his magnitude with the history with the knee issue and so on. We just wanted to make sure. So we sent him out to California just to get a second opinion, and so just to make sure we've dotted the I's and crossed the T's. And he's been back in the lineup and doing well.
Now, let's get a little deeper into sort of where the Braves stand going into the season, because, Alex, you guys have dominated the regular season. You've dominated the division. The postseason has been a different story. I don't know if this is an apples and oranges thing, but we do have the NCAA tournament going on. And, Alex, for me, it feels like baseball is sort of headed toward this, where several years ago, and, of course, early in your career, when I grew up, all of these teams weren't in the postseason. It's made it a lot more fun. It's made it exciting. And we've been in a position where basically anybody, as we've seen, can win the World Series. But I don't know. It kind of has a tournament feel at this point to it, Alex, with baseball, where it almost doesn't matter how good you are at the in the regular season. It just matters how hot you are going into October. Has it always been the case like that? Because it certainly feels like now it has to be the case.
Well, look, there's more teams, obviously, but I think that's been good for the game. It's good for baseball in September. More clubs are engaged. More fan bases stay engaged. It's a good thing. And look, my view of it is you have to go out and get it done. And obviously, it's the postseason. It's a short series. Look, we had times during the season, even though we won over 100 games, we lost 4 in a row and so on, or didn't play well, didn't hit well, didn't pitch well. That happens. And you have to play your best baseball in the playoffs. And look, you're playing phenomenal teams as well. All those teams earn the right to the postseason. So, look, no doubt about it. The talent was certainly there. But the way I view it is if you get in, anybody can get to the World Series because you were able to survive the 162-game grind to get to the postseason. And then at that point, anything can happen. So I think it's just for us. I think every player would tell you the same thing. We have to find a way to get it done. Give all these camps and these players and GMs and managers talking about how they'd be really upset and disappointed if they didn't win the World Series. Well, only one team can do it. So, there's a randomness to it, but, when we've lost because the other team played better than us, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, I think that it's really the key is that just only one team can be happy. It's a good point at the end of the season. You guys were a couple of years ago winning the World Series, winning Executive of the Year, and all of that. Okay, so for folks who may not have followed the Braves intensely during spring training, like you, unfortunately for us, we know all the names. Like you have a bunch of stars, Alex, as you said, 8 All-Stars playing for the Braves. Who shined to you this spring? And spring's kind of tight to sort of take those numbers into the regular season. But who did you see this spring that you really think we should be more focused on? Maybe somebody that's not been talked about that much heading into the season.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we have a lot of stars. So you can't be surprised. We've signed a lot of these guys, so we obviously believe in them, right? But I'd say the guys that have had the best springs, Strider's had a phenomenal spring, but I know people still use this in the Cy Young conversation last year, but phenomenal spring. And Harris has had a phenomenal spring. But like you said, it doesn't always correlate, right? But these are 2 super talented guys. And I would say conversely, the guys that didn't have great springs that are great players, I wouldn't lean in any of that as well. But I'd say those 2 guys have really jumped off the page this spring, wire to wire, have just had an exceptional spring.
All right, fair enough. Last thing, Alex, opening day, another one coming your way this week. Always a special time in the game. And I would ask you what your routine is for opening day, how you're feeling going into the season on opening day. We make so much of it. I know it's only one game of 162, but here we are 3 days away from the first game of the season. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I think it's evolved for me. I think, early on, it's always special. It's opening day. I remember what it was like as a fan. It's incredible. But I think I now have the perspective. It's worth the same. I was just talking to my kids about it this morning, and it's worth the same as Game 2 and Game 3. It's just a special day, and it's fun. And everybody wants to win on opening day. But I mean, the 6 years I've been here, I think two of those 6 years, I'm pretty sure we got swept by the Phillies in the opening day series, in the opening weekend series. So, and we ultimately won the division. So it doesn't mean anything. You overreact to all that stuff. It's exciting to get the season going, but I look forward to it as a fan. I kind of want to get it over with as an employee because there's just so much around it, media, anticipation, and so on. But it's exciting that we have a new season, and I certainly know what it means as a fan.
Yeah, no, and we'll be watching, of course, and watching your club again this year. And, wish you the best of health, Alex, with your team. And I know that you guys are going to be in there in the end. I'll be looking forward to see how far you guys go here, where you are too here in 2024. Hey, thanks for coming on NewsWire, as you always have previewed your team with us every season. Appreciate it. And have a safe trip to Atlanta when you guys get done. And I'm sure we'll see each other in South Florida or somewhere else soon. Thanks again for coming on.
Absolutely. Always glad to come on, Craig. And hopefully for Braves fans out there, we have a great year and we deliver on expectations, and look forward to hopefully having a great year.
All right, Alex, appreciate it. Alex Anthopoulos, president and general manager of the Atlanta Braves. Boy, what a formidable lineup this team has once again going into the year. Sort of incredible. Let's bring that lineup back up one more time, guys. We have that graphic of that lineup. I want to take one more look at it before we go to the break here. Look at that. I mean, how do you beat that every single night? I have no idea. And the reason why I asked Alex, and I didn't even mention Adam Duvall. They got Duvall back to, I guess, play a little bit potentially with Kelenic there. Probably should have asked about that. Duvey's one of my guys. But like to get back the old Ozuna from what he was in Miami was just sort of shocking to me last year. And for those of you who did not check his stats at the end of last season, the guy in a normal baseball campaign had MVP type stats. Now the game has changed so much. A lot of guys are stealing, as we saw last year. Acuna stealing a ton of bases, Corbin Carroll stealing a ton of bases. But just in the 5 years ago baseball, for the numbers that Ozuna put up last year, I was so impressed with the way that he bounced back. So thanks again to Alex Anthopoulos for coming here on NewsWire. All right, we got to take one more time out here on the show. If you thought Mike Tyson was the only one in a squared circle or a ring to bite someone, well, that trivia question is no longer the case. It happened again. But this time, not in boxing. It happened in the UFC, and there's pictures to prove it. So coming up next, we will hit on that. As a reminder, on Tuesday's show, Marlins President of Baseball Operations, Peter Bendix, will be with us. We're scheduled on Wednesday to have Mike Elias, the Vice President of Baseball Operations and GM of the Orioles, with us. And then, of course, more special guests for opening day on Thursday. So don't go anywhere. More NewsWire coming up right after this quick timeout, right here on SportsGrid. Smarter to be on SportsGrid. Be right back.
Look where he is. He's not in the low block.
Hey, this is
he's on the wing.
Yeah, but he's back.
He pounds in. He's throwing elbows, too.
That's a man move.
That's a grown man move, but he's throwing elbows. The steal. The foul. No call. No call.
Look
the
who
Silver Fox missed another one. The humanity.
In the corner, Caleb Love. The arms are up. Come on, I haven't had a touch in a minute.
25.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Betting in game, there's a big difference, right? Like the computer changes the number so often. Like I tried to get this in right now, but in reality, as I saw plus 165 in the arena, they're hitting the shot, and I'm getting this like a couple of seconds late. And even the sports book, like technology can only travel so fast.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
If you're like me and you had never heard the name Igor Severino, then you'll be curious why he's part of our show here to end on NewsWire. And the reason why he is because he was disqualified this weekend amongst all of the March Madness. This is truly a March Madness story. He was disqualified for biting his opponent. The name of the opponent was Andre Lima. Truth be told, had never heard of this before. Now, he's 20 years old. He leaned in, and I know it's kind of hard to see if you're not watching on a big screen, but he bit the bicep of Lima, and UFC President Dana White has said in a text message that Severino has been released from the organization, from the UFC, following the disqualification for biting. Now, I have a lot of memories watching live Mike Tyson biting the ear of Evander Holyfield. I was watching that live, folks. I am that old. Watching that on pay-per-view, I think it was at the time. And I thought to myself, no one is ever going to do that ever again, because it was one of the most embarrassing moments, one of the worst moments, honestly, in some sort of combat in sports, boxing, UFC, wrestling, whatever. But here we are again. The guy decides to bite. Biting is not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to happen. And look at this guy's already been kicked out. Now, the good news, I guess, for Severino is he'll always be known as this guy for the rest of his life. Is that a good thing? Probably not. But maybe he'll sign autographs of the picture of him biting somebody or the actual bite mark. I don't know. Maybe I'm being insane here. But bottom line, bad idea. If you're going to play in sports, biting is out. Kids, don't do it. You'll never be involved in your sport again. Okay, great way to end the show, I think, today. Thanks again to Alex Anthopoulos, President of Baseball Operations of the Braves. Thanks to Matthew Waters from Legal Sports Report, as well as Jacob Camenker from Sporting News, our associate producer Frank, our producer Michael, and I am Craig Mish. Coming up next, it is the early line, followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast. Scott will preview all of the games in the NCAA Tournament coming up on Thursday, and we will preview the Miami Marlins on the show with Peter Bendix, President of Baseball Operations, on the show tomorrow at 11:40 a.m. Eastern. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day here on SportsGrid. I'll see you tomorrow.